Woohoo, here we go. First live video ever. Ever. I've never done it on Facebook, never done it anywhere else. So it's a new routine. Um, yeah, to be honest, this particular video was a little difficult for me. Uh, when my mentor asked me to make a video a couple of days ago, I was not in the mood at all, like not even sort of in the mood. And I'll talk about that in just a second, mostly because anyone who's known me for any length of time knows that I'm a huge proponent of mental health and mental health awareness. Excuse me. And when I was asked to do a video, I was having what I call one of my low tide days. I am a struggler, survivor, worker bee with chronic depression. I've lived with it for several years, multiple years. And on that particular day, I was having one of my low tide days, a day where I couldn't really do anything. All I wanted to do was to be in bed and stay in bed. So I was like, I don't have anything to talk about. But it occurred to me that maybe that was what should be talked about. Part of the reason there's a stigma around mental health awareness is because we don't talk about it. No, those who struggle don't necessarily know that they're struggling. They think that it's just the way the world is. And those who know that they're struggling don't know there's others out there that are also struggling. So it's important to talk about. It's something that needs to be talked about. So that's where we're going to open today. It's not going to be the only topic of discussion, but it is where we're going to start. So when I talk about having low tide days, I think about my triggers, things that sometimes can lead to having low days. Often it's a lack of sleep. It's sometimes a poor diet. It could be lack of exercise. It could be lack of social stimulation. It could be that it rained for too many days in a row, which in Brazil is a real thing. I'm not entirely sure how it happened, but this particular trigger was based on a day that I had a couple days prior. So little background. Last weekend, my company threw a fantastic Teachers' Day party for the entire staff that worked at the school. And in order to prepare for that, I went out with some friends and we went shopping. Had to have a dress. And I was feeling really good that day. That particular day, I just gotten a new apartment and everything was going smoothly, hanging out with some awesome friends. So we went and I bought a dress that I normally wouldn't wear. It was definitely more form-fitting. I am a plus-size girl. You can tell by looking at me. And if you know me, this is a normal thing. And it is a dress that was kind of risky for me to do. But I felt awesome. I felt awesome in it. So I was happy to buy it. I was so looking forward to this party. Fast forward a week to the actual event. And I'm getting ready and something happened. I don't know what. It was like there was a switch that turned in my head. And I went from being perfectly fine 1 minute to almost like an anxiety attack. I was walking down the street on the way to the party and it suddenly felt like the entire world came crushing in on me. And all that was echoing through my head was the very cruel things that people have said to me in the past about being a big girl and things that big girls can wear, things that big girls shouldn't wear, things that are acceptable and things that aren't acceptable, what it takes to be beautiful. And I stopped in the middle of the road, in the middle of a busy street in Brazil, and I couldn't breathe. It was just one of those, like, I felt so stupid for wearing this outfit. I felt so stupid for wanting to go out in public and for having the right to feel beautiful. And it was very strange. It was very peculiar for me. I've never had an attack like that before, an episode or whatever you want to call it. And I did what you're supposed to do. I reached out to my lifelines. I reached out to people that I'm close to try to get some kind of support to work through it. And fortunately for me, I have a fantastic support system. I have friends here in Brazil that I've just met that are very close to me. I have people from my past that are still really close to me. And yeah, I mean, it worked out. Unfortunately, at that moment, nothing they said was helping. It wasn't in any way giving me the comfort that I needed. And I was kind of, like I said, I'm sitting there in the middle of the street and I'm kind of like bent over and I'm like, what can I do? How do I get out of this? And I turned to one of my coping mechanisms. And for anybody that's out there struggling, it helps to have things that you know make you happy, to have things that you know make you feel better. And for me, the biggest one is music. I've always turned to music when I struggle. So that was the first thing I did is I put in my headphones and I started listening to some of those songs that are comforting. They may not necessarily be happy or whatever, but they are comforting. They are encouraging. So I put in my music and I'm like, okay, so I have two choices. I can keep going and I can go to the party, or I can go home and I can completely erase this and pretend it didn't happen. I went. I made myself put one foot in front of the other, and I went. I got there, and the concert had already started. Was completely dark in the theater, so I'm like sitting here going, like, "What are you doing here? Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous." And a friend of mine got there a little after I did, and we're watching a Beatles reenactment, a cover band, which normally wouldn't be cool. But any live music who's singing in English when their first language is a different language is totally awesome to me. I love live music. So we're sitting there watching the concert, and she comes and she sits next to me, and she reaches over and she grabs my hand. Not in any, she didn't know what was happening. She was not one of the people that I had reached out to. But she grabbed my hand, and for some reason, that was enough to lift whatever this very heavy blanket of anxiety was for me, enough that I could enjoy and get into what was happening on stage. And it really made the rest of the evening go really well. And I think that particular episode is what caused my low tide days over the last few days. It took me a couple of days. I did get out of it. I'm back to normal, back to what I would call a high tide day, where I'm totally functional, happy just like anybody else, and moving on. Same night of the party, though, and I'm going to jump to a different subject here. Just in case anybody's wondering, Americans are still Americans even when living abroad. I have an American coworker who's also a good friend of mine, and we're at this party with all of our Brazilian coworkers. There's probably close to like 150 people here, and there is amazing food. Fantastic. Brazilian's not a cook, I'm just saying. Amazing food, and we're sitting there and we're both like, dude, I want to dance. Are we going to dance? There's a totally open space. We're out there on a soccer field, sort of, an indoor soccer field. It's a big thing here. And we're both like, I want to dance. And the music that's playing is like fast-paced elevator music. So we do what Americans have a tendency to do. We went and we totally grabbed control of the DJ's playlist. And do you guys remember the Cupid Shuffle? That stupid song that played at high school dances for like every high school dance ever, especially for millennials and for anybody who taught millennials. I don't know what year it came out. I'll have to look it up, and I'll probably put it in the description later. But it's one of those simple, stupid line dances where as long as you can count to 4 and you can walk, you can totally do it. So we put on this song in English where nobody speaks English, and it's just the two of us. And we were hoping that if we got there and the two of us did it, everyone else would join in. That didn't happen, by the way. Apparently not a Brazilian thing to do different countries' line dances. Nobody messes it up like Americans do. But I love line dances. So the two of us got up there and we started doing it. And then suddenly we had a crowd where people are like videotaping us and taking pictures. I don't have any pictures yet. I want someone to send me the pictures of this particular dance just so I can have them for my own archive. And it was just one of the most outrageously fun things. And like the more people watch you, the more you get going with it. And absolutely ridiculous. So And dancing is probably going to be a main staple of my life. We did the merengue together. We did samba later. And yeah, it just turned out to be a really, really cool thing. And kind of on that aspect of dancing being a mainstream thing here, in our classroom, we have a cinema time once a week per class. And so I'm totally changing the subject, by the way. But the whole concept of dancing. So my students speak very little English, and what English they do speak is not amazing, but it's enough to understand. So in a way, that's a horrible thing, because as a teacher, trying to enact discipline or behavior at all is a challenge. It's a difficult thing to do. But on the on the other end of that, they can really get into the easiest things that you put up on the screen. So for our cinema time this week, I decided to do Halloween videos. And I'm putting up, I put up the Monster Mash, which is I couldn't help but laugh. I was dying laughing at this particular incident because my students couldn't understand the words. All they could hear was the word monster. If you don't know the Monster Mash, turn off this video, go watch it, and then come back and watch the rest of the video. Because instead of saying, do the mash, the Monster Mash, all they heard was, do the monster. So they kept singing, do the monster. And it was probably the funniest thing. I think I've never laughed so hard in my life, and they had no idea why I was laughing. I had to stop it and explain to them what the words were so that they could these are 7-year-olds, by the way, 6 and 7-year-olds. So all they hold on to is just the little snippets of words. It was absolutely hilarious. And Just Dance, that's funny, by the way, reading the comments. Introduce the kids to the fine works of Jamie Lee Curtis this Halloween. I don't want to traumatize them, and I like my job. So thanks. But I think I may probably not do that. Just Dance is I'm guessing it's a game on the Wii. I'm not entirely sure. But I've seen it before. I've seen it in actually almost every country that I've been in. And they have videos on YouTube that have the song playing in the background and then kid-friendly dances to go along with it. So while we were showing these Halloween videos, we did the Monster Mash, and then we jumped to Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters has the funniest Just Dance video ever. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, I thought it was absolutely the best thing ever. I played it like 8 times for the kids. They didn't know what was happening. They were just dancing along with a little figure that moves on the screen. But the most fantastic thing ever. If you're a teacher or if you actually just want to laugh, go and look at some of these Just Dance videos. It's a blobby like human that does dance moves for the kids to follow along with. And that worked out really well. We've done it twice since I showed the videos. Also, there is one for Thriller for Michael Jackson. I know that there is one for Ghost by Michael Jackson. If you type in any song in Just Dance, chances are there is some kind of video that goes along with it. We also do the Gummy Bear song, which has followed me through every country I have lived in. It's going to be a motif in my travels, I have decided. The kids need to know how to do the Gummy Bear dance. I'll put that in the description as well, so y'all know how to do the Gummy Bear dance. Yeah, I think that was it. Kind of just an overcap of kind of what's been going on. I have officially hit my first month here in Vitoria. I've hit my first month with my new job. It has been definitely an up and down thing. Living in Brazil, it's not for the faint-hearted? No, what's the expression? I don't know. It's you got to want it to be here. That's for sure. Yeah, from the beginning of getting the visa in the first place, and I have another video that I'm going to upload with the details of that, to once you're here, it's not even over. Most countries, once you get to the country, most of the bureaucracy and ridiculousness is over. But here, it just totally, it's not even over yet. So trying to get my work card, you have to have basically a Brazilian social security number. You have to register with the federal police, and you have to go and have a legal right to work. I've been corrected. It says that we're reconnecting. Hopefully that'll come back. There we go. Okay. I've just been corrected. The expression is for the faint of heart. Thank you very much to my little sister. I'm sorry, so you have to have the Brazilian Social Security card, the registration with the federal police, and the work card. In the United States, no one actually cares what your parents' full names are as long as they somewhat kind of match. Amazingly, we get away with a lot. Misspellings or whatever, it's not a big deal. Here in Brazil, that doesn't fly. My mother had one name the day I was born and divorced my father, which is not an uncommon occurrence. And 25 years later, I argued with multiple government agencies about what my mother's legal name was. Just so you know, if you're traveling, have all your documents match your birth certificate, because your birth certificate is the only document that you have that will usually prove your parents' full name, first, middle, and last, because it's required to be on there. If they change their name and you don't have an apostilled certificate that says they changed your name, have everything, whether or not they use that name or not is totally irrelevant. Make sure that it all matches your birth certificate, because you can prove the names on the birth certificate. I had that problem because I have 3 copies of my birth certificate and they all have different names on them. Don't ask why, that's another story. So the copy that I used to get my Brazilian Social Security card had my mother's maiden name on it. That's actually not even uncommon for a birth certificate to have. Fast forward 4 years and I'm here trying to get my work card, and the current one, the one that's apostilled, doesn't have my mother's maiden name on it. It only has her married name, and that's the one that's a signature. So it was difficult. I had to go back and forth to the police to prove one name. Then I had to go have it translated, go back to the police, go back to the Social Security office, have it changed on that. Make sure everything matches your birth certificate. It's an important document. Make sure you have a copy of your birth certificate. Most people do not have the original, just so you know. I also learned that. The original has the signatures on it. If you have a copy that just has a printed name, that is not the original copy of your birth certificate. Traveling fun fact. Yeah, that's it. So it's all sorted now. I'm on to the next steps, which is the medical process and enrolling in universal health care here. But aside from that, loving the job, loving living here, absolutely, absolutely incredible. So I think that's probably going to wrap up this video. Please always feel free to like, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. If you have any ideas of things you'd like me to talk about or ramble about, or random subjects or whatever, leave them in the comment box and I will happily read them. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day. And if I don't see you, have a happy Halloween. All right, guys, I'll see you later.